about the fives today, right? You with me on that? Let's talk about the fives today, that personality. Before we get to that, I just want to say, let's admit together that that's difficult to be in relation with everybody else. Like, it's difficult. One of the most difficult things that we do. But you are created to be together. Like, you are created to be together with other people. It says so in the Bible that we read. You don't have to believe that, I don't think, to believe what I'm saying, that we're created to be together. Because think about it, no team exists with just one person. A team is a group of people. So you can play basketball if you want to, but if you show up on the court by yourself, you're going to have a hard time playing against 5 other people. It's not good. We're created to be together. That's why when we do work, we don't do it all on our own. If you want to be successful in your career as a small business owner and you want it to get bigger, it can't be just you. Like, we're created to be together. The trouble is we just struggle to not put gaps between us. And the reason why we struggle to not put gaps between us is because of those personality differences that we have. We have different personalities. You think one way, I think another way, but we assume that everybody thinks the same. And when we don't, we often say, well, why don't they understand? I don't understand why they don't understand. It's because we just think different. And so what we want to do in this 9 weeks is give you a glimpse of different personalities and take some insight from something called the Enneagram that talks about 9 different personality types. And then we want to use the wisdom of the Bible to help you build better relationships with the people around you. Do you want that in your life? Like, I want that in my life. So let me give you a story. I was driving down the road this week, and as I'm thinking about this message, something hit me. It was a sign, literally a sign. I was driving down the road on Cleveland Heights, and there was a sign by the road. And I'm used to seeing signs about yard sales. And I'm used to seeing signs about estate sales, and I love seeing the signs about estate sales because the pickers of the world and the ones who love to go buy things for nothing and then sell them for a bunch of money, you know, they know all the facts about this dresser right here. I'm going to get this for $10, and I'm going to sell it for $10,000. Like, they know, and they find the estate sales, and they show up at 4 a.m., even though it's not opening till 6 a.m. Have you ever seen them park in neighborhoods before where there's an estate sale? If you haven't, it is so fun to watch. A estate sale sign, and then cars just show up all over the place. I'm used to seeing those signs. I am not used to seeing the sign that I saw. It was a divorce sale sign. And what I mean by that is they were getting divorced, and so everything it said must go. And I was like, that's one way of advertising. That's one way of advertising a sale at your home. And I'm like, should I laugh? Should I be sad? Should I stop and tell them, I'm so sad, let me pray for you? Like, can we have a conversation here together? Because I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, they're not just wanting to get rid of everything. Part of that everything is probably their former spouse. Like, get rid of everything. Like, you want to take this person, take them with you. We don't want them anymore. And so it's sad to me, and it's something I think that reflects who we are as human beings. People who want to love others, like when somebody gets married, they want to love that other person. Nobody ever says, I do, if they don't want to love that other person. But we struggle. Now think about this. 50% of you in this room right now, 50% of you, if you get married, your marriage won't last. 50% of you. Anybody want to get married? 50%. So the odds are every other person sitting here, the first person you marry won't be the last. And it won't be the longest. Isn't that sad? And I'm not like trying to make people feel bad about divorce because it happens. I'm just trying to say that's how difficult relationships are. Like the most important ones to us. The ones that we want to have forever and we commit to on the stage in front of all our friends and say, I'll do this for better or for worse. And then when it gets worse, we say, okay, I think I changed my mind now. It's just so hard. And so we've created this series. Look, what are you guys doing to me up here? Look what they did to me before the person who won the chili cook-off last night put their award on my podium. You know what? The only reason why Jared Hatcher won the chili cook-off is because he paid for all the extra votes that got him to win. So we can post this wherever we want, but when you see Jared Hatcher, you tell him the true winner is me right here. I got the win. Jeez. Connor, were you colluding with him? Whatever. You know, there are some of us in this room who you live with a personality type 5. You live with one. And there's others of us in this room who you work with a 5. You're like, wow, I know they're a 5 for sure. And then there's some of us who go to class with a 5. And then there's some of us in this room who are blessed to be related to a personality type 5 in our life. But for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, when I say personality type 5, I want to summarize the personality so you have some concept of what I'm talking about. So if you don't know, listen in right now, because 5s are this. 5s are observant, they're insightful, and they are perceptive people who will really love you well with their knowledge. They will really love you well with their knowledge. 5s are the kind of people who want to know everything about everything, which often means that they can get stuck in the sanctuary of their mind. Sometimes when you're around 5s, you'll be thinking to yourself, hello, McFly, is anybody in there? Because they're so far inside their brain, you'd have to walk through 1,000 doors to get where they are. It's not that they're not in there, it's that they're in there so far they can't hear you when you're talking to them or standing in front of them because they're chasing this idea, and man, I need to know more about birds. Or I need to figure out why the government is telling us we went to the moon when we actually didn't. Like, I'm trying to figure out how in the world all these things are factoring into life because I need to know. So if you think you know a 5, give me a mm-hmm. Oh, a lot of you know 5s. And the 5s are hiding under chairs right now. If you're still not sure if you know a 5, then maybe you will be able to decide after this. If you need someone who will have all of the facts and won't let one of those facts slide past you, then the person you would call is a 5. And so today what I want to do is I want to talk to you about building a better relationship with the 5s. We call the 5s the investigators. The investigators. Reminds me of Inspector Gadget for some reason. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Remember that song, anybody? Inspector Gadget. Well, those gaps that exist between us and most 5s, they exist because 5s often believe a lie. And the lie that 5s often believe is this. The lie says to 5s, you know enough to not need the assistance or the comfort of anyone else. You know so much about everything that you don't really need anybody else in your life, and you especially don't need them telling you what to do or how to do it or what to think about it because you already know it all, because you've researched it and you know it. If you know a 5, trust me on this. When a 5 speaks about something, they know what they're talking about. Like if you have a 5 in your life and they speak about something, they know what they're talking about, because if they didn't know what they're talking about, they wouldn't speak. And by the way, if a 5 is speaking to you, then you are an important person in their life, because they're not going to waste their energy talking to somebody who isn't important in their life when they could be learning something else new and gathering new knowledge. Now, the reason why that a 5 struggles with this lie is because 5s believe that knowledge is power. Like knowledge. I got to get more knowledge. It's power. And because they believe that knowledge is power, what happens to them is that they detach themselves from their emotions so that they can compulsively go gather more information. They're like the squirrels of information. They just gather as much as they can. Y'all ever seen squirrels? I mean, I ride bikes with my youngest daughter to school and my oldest daughter, and the squirrels are the craziest things. Something happened I believe could not be possible. We were riding bikes to school about a month ago with my youngest daughter, just the two of us, and we were riding down this one path where the squirrels just like to dart out in front of you. I'm assuming they're afraid that somebody's going to come steal their stash. And so they're just running everywhere. And as my daughter is riding her bike to school, 10 years old, she ran over a squirrel. She ran over the top of a squirrel. And this daughter of mine has liked bugs since she was a little girl. So you imagine her broken heart. Like she ran over and she's like, Dad, what happened? And I look down and the squirrel's on its back like this. I'm like, oh no. And she's like, Daddy, Daddy, did I kill it? And the squirrel, as you know how they are, it jumps up and takes off running. I'm like, no, honey, it's fine. You saw it run away. She's like, Dad, I'm never riding a bike to school again. And so now every time we ride our bikes down that path, she is very slow riding her bike down that path. The fives are like squirrels. They collect the information that they need and they store it with them. Which is why when a five gets a tattoo, because they will get tattoos. They're that kind of people. They will get tattoos. When a five gets a tattoo, they are not going to tell you when they're going to get a tattoo. They won't tell you. You will have no clue when a five gets a tattoo because that's information that's only for them. And when a five decides to get a tattoo, they will research every tattoo shop within a 300-mile radius. And they will read every comment in the feedback section. And they will know the names of every artist in the top shops where they want to get their tattoo. And they will know before they get there which artist they're going to have do their tattoo, exactly what kind of tattoo they're going to get, how long they will be there, and how long they're going to wait for you to figure out that they got a tattoo, which may be weeks, it may be months, it may be a year before you realize, oh my gosh, this person that's close to me got a tattoo and I didn't even know it. And they want you to know it, but they want you to know them well enough that you discovered on your own because that's only for them. That's a five. So if you have fives in your life, I want to tell you something else about a five. When something difficult is happening in a five's life, they do not want you to run to them and give them a hug. They don't want that because they're trying to figure out how to run away from you to go hug a book or their computer. Because if they hug a book or a computer, then they can get all the information that they need in order to feel good about the thing that they're struggling with. Whew, that's fives. So if you're a five and you're here today, this is probably what's going through your head. I'm going to read your minds, which you hate me for even saying that. If you're a five here today, you are afraid right now. You're afraid that at the end of the service, I'm going to call you all up here. And I'm going to say, stand here in front of me, fives, and everybody else. And then the worst fear is that when we call you up here, we're going to have strangers come up with germs on their hands and put their hands on your back and pray for you. And the reason why you're afraid of that, fives, in the room right now is because you're wondering, okay, if I expose who I am to everybody else, then what do I have left to protect me? That's a five. So fives in the room, I want to speak to you directly. Hopefully everybody else will listen in. If I could give you only one verse from the Bible, man, there's many, but if I could only give you one, like if God said only one can you give to the fives. And if I told you, here, take this and commit it to memory so that you will always have its truth, a truth that I believe can set you free, then the verse that I would give to the fives of the world is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. So let me tell you what it says. It says, trust in the Lord, or trust in God with all your heart. It says, trust in God with all. Can you all say that with me? All. Say all. Trust in the Lord with all your hearts. Which I don't know if the person who wrote these words is thinking about or speaking directly to the fives of the world, but if you ask me, I believe these words are spoken in a way that makes total sense to somebody who is a personality five in this world. And the reason why they're so relevant to somebody that's a five is because they speak into your struggle of withholding and safeguarding all the things in your life. Like you hold to yourself and you safeguard your time and your energy and your thoughts and your personal information and your privacy and especially your space, fives. You privately keep your space to yourself. And if you invite someone into it, you make them take their shoes off. That's what you do, fives, is you make sure that nobody can come in and take what you have and ruin it because it's to you, it's just not enough. So if you go back to the verse, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, let's think about what it says. It says, trust in God with all your what? Heart. Trust in God with your inner being. Listen, fives, trust in God with your emotions. And the fives are thinking, come on, God. You can have a lot of things, but I don't know if I can give you my heart. I don't know if I can open up who I am to you and to everybody else. Like, why can't you just give me a book? Or how about a documentary? God, I like documentaries. Can't you just give me a documentary? Like there's something on Netflix that could replace me opening up my heart. I'll even cry when I'm watching it, God. I promise you, I'll cry, but I don't want anybody else in the room as I'm crying. I just need information. I don't want to open up my heart to you. I just want you to take something and download it in my brain because I'm struggling to think that I could share with you my heart. And the reason why a 5 struggles to share their heart is because they're wondering, if I share my heart with you, God, if I open it up to you, God, or to anybody else, what if you find something that you don't like? Because that's all that I have. And what if when I open up my heart to you, God, I can't handle the feelings because I don't like feelings. I'm not a 4. I don't like the feelings of this world. I can't handle the feelings of this world. So I'd much rather just have a civilized conversation with you, God. That's all I want. Let's just talk about the facts. Let's talk about the principles. Let's talk about the statements that you can give to me and I can take it and believe it, and that's all that I need. But my heart, God, I don't know if I can give you my heart. But Proverbs says, trust in the Lord with all of your hearts. And then the second part of that verse says, and do not rely on your own insight. Do not rely on your own insight. Now, this verse isn't saying that those things are bad. It's not bad to have good thoughts. It's not bad to gather new information. It's not bad to know more than 99% of the rest of the population. That's okay. But what it's saying is, do not detach your head from your heart. It's saying, don't climb out of the chamber of your heart and protect yourself in the attic of your brain. It's saying, don't just have an intellectual relationship to God, have a heartfelt relationship to God. Now, I'm speaking to the 5s of the room, but would any of you in this room who aren't 5s say that's a struggle for even you? I think in the 21st century here in our culture, in America, we like to have a relationship to God that's all here. Because we're in the age of the scientific theory that's already been thought up, and now we exist in that world where if you can prove this and prove this and prove this and prove this, then this must be true. And so we even struggle with the idea of God anymore. Like, how can you believe in God when it can't be proven true? Which I wonder why we even believe that we can think that love is real, because how can you believe it's true? And the only way is through experience. But we like to live in our heads, don't we? We like to go to the Bible, even as Christians sometimes. We like to go to the Bible. And I've had people say this to me before. Pastor, man, I just wish your sermons were more deep sometimes. And I think to myself, no, you don't, because you will fall asleep. Because I could take you very deep. Like, I have enough education that I can sit down and I can break down the Bible verse by verse, and we might hang out in a verse for the next 6 years. Like, I can take us there if you want me to take you there. I'm just not the kind of pastor that believes God is concerned about whether you know every single thing about the verse. I'm the kind of pastor who believes that God is concerned if when you show up here, are you willing to open your heart? I don't have to give you a bunch of information in order for you to know some things that God wants you to know. But sometimes we get into this place where we believe if I could just hang out in my head with God, like that's all that I need. I don't need an experience with God. You know, some of you are from a Pentecostal background, and you go to a church where experience is real, isn't it? Like you go to, like experience is real, like things happen in your life. And then some of you are from Catholic backgrounds. Well, that is not the case. Experience like that is not real. You want to sit in your seat, and the most experiential thing that you have is standing up and sitting down. That's it. But you go into a Pentecostal-style church, and they're dancing all over the room like they're having an experience. And one's not good and one's not bad. Wherever you are, you got to open up your heart. But all we want to do is open up our brain. And God is saying, trust in God with all of your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. And then it goes on in verse 6. Let me tell you what it says. In verse 6. Last night I got it wrong, so I don't want to get it wrong today. It says, in all your ways acknowledge God, and God will make your path straight. And then it says this in verse 7. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Do not be wise in your own eyes. In other words, I think that means is don't hide in your thoughts because they can't save you. Only God can. Only God can save you. Only God can save you. There's no amount of information that can save you from anything. Only God can save you, because even if you get all the information that you need in this world, you still need something outside of you telling you how to use it in order to help you. And God is the creator of information. Like, God is the one who breathes words into your head. God is the one who animates the inside of who you are. So without God, information is just information, but with God, it's transformation. So listen to me. If you're here, fives, I want you to know this. We understand that this is not easy for you to hear, that you must trust your entire self with God, including your heart, in order to experience the safety that you long for. So everybody else, I want you to jump back into this sermon with me today, because you've been wondering, why are you talking about five so long? Because we need to be talking about how do I build a better relationship with the five. So I want you all to wake up. Some of you who are sleeping right now, come on, it's time to wake up. Like, wake up, open those eyes, and turn that brain back on and connect with your heart, because I want to tell you something important today. I want to tell you what we can do together to build a better relationship with the fives in our life. If you want to build a better relationship with a five, then help them believe this truth. You don't have to have the answers for all things. You're off the hook. You don't have to be the winner of Jeopardy. You don't. You don't have to be smarter than Bill Nye, the science guy. You don't have to figure out all the ways that the world is conspiring against us. You don't have to know all things about all things. Now, if you're somebody who wants to help a five believe that truth, here's how you can help them believe that truth, is by acknowledging, showing them that you value the knowledge that they do have, because they have a lot more than the majority of you in this room. But at the same time, remind them that the knowledge that they have, it's not everything. So when you see the fives in your life retreating into their brain and gathering new insights and new information, and they're staying in that place, just look them in the eyes or find a way to communicate to them that those things are good, but remind them of the power of opening up their hearts. Because I'm convinced that no five wants to go through their life only with the facts. They don't just want the facts, they want to be able to feel. They want to feel your presence. They want to feel your love. They want to feel your grace. They want to feel your support. They want to feel your belief. They want to feel, but they get stuck in the facts. So when you're with the five, say, hey, you know what? That's good that you know, but let me remind you, it's also good to feel, to open up your heart. So for those of you in the room who like to know practical ways of how to do that, I want to give you three. One way that you can do this is really important, and one way you can do this is to never put a five on the spot unexpectedly. Come on, all the fives in the room, give me an amen. I know you're not going to. But never put a five on the spot unexpectedly. I mean, if you give a five advanced information about what they need to do, and so they can expect it, a five will prepare themselves emotionally and relationally to be able to do it so that they don't feel overwhelmed or inadequate, but you can't just put them on the spot. So listen to me. If Fred is a five, never ask Fred in front of a group of people to spontaneously say a prayer. Never do that to a five. You will ruin your relationship with a five. They will never come back to your church, your small group, maybe even your family. Like, they're just not going to do it. Do not put them on the spot. Don't do it. A second thing that you can do is to avoid including them in group decisions because they don't like it. Fives are professionals at observing. They're people watchers. They're not professionals at participating in the group. So don't pressure them to perform in front of a group of people. Now, what I mean by that as an example is if Frank is a 5, don't make him decide where you're going to go eat every single Friday night when you're with a group of people. He doesn't care where you're going to eat because he knows all the good places, but he wants you to ask him privately, and then you tell the rest of the group. Stop asking Frank to decide. Let you decide. He'll follow along with you. A third thing that you can do is this. This is really important too, is offer them time alone. I was doing counseling in Texas when we were working at a church with a young couple, and they were engaged to be married. And they both worked at the same business. They both worked for Southwest Airlines, and we were having conversations with them and counseling. My wife and I were counseling them in marriage. And so if you're thinking about getting married right now, or if you want to be married someday, this is some advice you can just take home with you. We were counseling with them, and the husband had to be a 5, or the guy had to be a 5 now looking back on it, because when he came home from work, all that he said he wanted to do was just go to his room. He just wanted to go to his room because he said, you know what, I'm around people all day long. I've spent my relational energy, my emotional energy. So when I get home, I just want to go to my room and take a break and recover. And then the woman in the relationship, she had to be a 7. She had to be. Because she said when she came home, she wanted to just talk. And she wanted to celebrate their day together. And she wanted to hear what was good and what was bad about his day. And she wanted to especially tell him what was good and good about her day and just forget about the bad. And so they were this couple, and she's like, I want to come home and I want to talk to him. But when I get home, he just wants to go to his room and we can't figure this out. And so as counselors to them, my wife and I said to them, chances are, if you can't figure this out, you never will, and your marriage won't last. Now, you're all going to be all sad on this one. But guess what? They decided to not get married because he had one personality, she had another personality, and they weren't willing to love the person for who they were and figure out a way to love each other that creates something new. And it was all because he needed some time alone. The 5s in your life, wherever they are, they're looking for that space, whether it's at work or whether it's at school or whether it's even at church, where it will be very difficult for you to find them. The reason why they want that space that's very difficult for you to find them is so that they can work and they can learn and they can recover however they choose to do it. So if you have 5s in your life, please listen to me on this. Please offer them time alone. And don't be offended because they need it. My family went on a vacation with one of my close friends, and actually Brooklyn was already there. She was in Costa Rica. She was doing a job where she traveled all over the world. She had been to Indonesia. She had been to Africa several times. She had been all over Latin America, and she was ending up in this particular trip in Costa Rica. If my wife goes to Costa Rica, I'm going to visit her there, because there are some really good waves in Costa Rica. And so my buddy, who's a close friend, he also likes waves, and we've been there before to Costa Rica. And so my wife, she's a 7, and she's like, anytime she gets to travel, she wants everybody else to come along. Like if we went to Costa Rica and she thought all of you could come, she'd invite you all. And she might even pay for it. Just don't ask her, because I'm not going to pay for it either. So here she was in Costa Rica, and so we planned a trip to go meet her there, and she was there by herself, and so it was myself, my good buddy, and then us with my 2 kids. That's a trip. I'd never in my life thought that people would look at me as being a parent whose kids had 2 daddies. I'd never. So as we're traveling through the airport, they would treat us different. They look at us like, oh, okay, this way, sir. Daddy, you go this way. So that was a different way of traveling. And so we traveled to Costa Rica, and as a 5, he studied all the maps of where we need to go to get where we're going, but he's not going to tell me that. He's expecting me to have done the same thing. And I was just relying on GPS. But that doesn't work the same in Costa Rica as it does in America. So when we got there and got to our rental car, and Brooklyn didn't know where she was, but told us to meet her there. Like the five became very infuriated, like, you guys are clowns. That's what he calls it. Like, the Lindsays are clowns. And so we've been friends now for about 6 or 7 years, and anytime he hangs out with us and something happens that he knows, like, he would never let happen in his life, he's like, just leave it to the Lindsays. Leave it to the Lindsays. That's what he says. Just leave it to the Lindsays. They're going to be late. Leave it to the Lindsays. They'll show up at Disney World 10 minutes before it closes. Leave it to the Lindsays. He likes to watch all documentaries, and he likes this one surf vlog on YouTube, and we were watching it, and he comes up to me and says, why can't you, the Lindsays, make a vlog? People would love to watch that. He's like, because I love to watch you guys be clowns. And he's like, why can't you just start a vlog? And so we had this idea. What if we started a Lindsay vlog, like a video blog, and attempted to go to Disney World 365 days in a row? And he's like, you guys should do it. And I'm like, you're crazy. I am not doing that. And my wife is like, yeah, come on, let's do it. Come on, let's do it. Anyway, we went to Costa Rica, and we spent, I think, 5 or 6 days together. Him with my family, to leave it to the Lindsays. And he had enough by the end. He loves us, but he had enough by the end. And this had not happened before with anybody in my life. And so we all flew on the same flight home. And as soon as we got to Orlando Airport, stepped off the plane, the man disappeared. Disappeared. Nowhere to be found. He didn't come up to us and say, hey, I love you guys. Appreciate the trip. Thank you for inviting me to be with your family. He never came up to my kids and was like, Kira, that was fun, high five. We got off the plane, and he needed alone time. And he needed that alone time for about the next 2 weeks. But you know what? What I think is beautiful is that as my buddy has hung around our family, and he's grown to trust us with who he is, 2 things have happened. My family, who used to wonder, where is he? And does he hate us? Now thinks he's just getting some of the time alone that he needs. That to me is beautiful. And then the other thing that is beautiful is that this person in our life who is part of our family now. On Wednesday night, I asked the teenagers, who in your life do you listen to their stories the most? And my daughter got home that night, and she said, Dad, when you asked that question, there was one person who came to mind right away, and that was my good friend. She's like, I love his stories about birds. But what's beautiful is the more that he's opened himself up to who we are and to who God is, the amount of alone time that is required has shrunk. And we've grown closer together. Now, I know some of you in the room who are married to a 5 or have a dad who's a 5 or work with a 5, you're thinking, man, some of this just seems weird and like it's not going to work. Because you're asking me to build a better relationship with somebody who's a 5 by telling them, hey, open up your heart. And they don't like to open up their heart. And you know what? You can think that way, and you can believe that that's not going to work, or you could see it a different way. You could see yourself in the way that you interact with a 5 as giving them a chance to trust themselves with somebody else. Like you're giving them that chance. And when you give them that chance, if they actually take it and open up their hearts to God and open up their hearts to you, what happens is it relieves them of the fear, of the inadequacy that they feel whenever they get themselves in a situation where they think that they don't know it all or have all the answers. When they're in that spot, they are no longer afraid. They say, you know what? I'm with somebody who I can trust, and that's a good feeling for a 5. So if you're here and you know a 5 and you're wondering, how can I build a better relationship with them? Then listen to me on this. When you stop being offended or confused by the fact that a 5 has to hoard some of their feelings and close in some of their heart and protect those things that they have, when you're okay with that, and instead of being offended, you make them feel safe to open up who they are and share what they have, what happens is something beautiful. They no longer hide in their thoughts because they're afraid of their feelings. And you close the gap between you and them. Because when you treat them that way, when you make them feel safe to open up their hearts, and then you see something that you don't like, but you tell them that it's okay. You don't have to have it all. When you tell them it's okay, they will feel safe. And what you will discover is a person who you once thought wasn't this, but now you know they are. You will find someone who is pioneering, and you will find someone who is playful, and you will find someone who is very sensitive. And what you will discover is that they are somebody who can open up their hearts to you and share with you the things that they have. And I believe when you do that, you make it possible for both of you to be empowered to build a better, closer, healthier, stronger relationship. Isn't that what we all want? So stand with me. I thought about this message series, and I was thinking, at the end of every message, I should invite every number up that I'm talking about that day and have them come and let's pray for them. But I know if I invite all the fives of the room, they will not step forward. They're not going to come up here and probably stand in front of you. So we're going to leave the fives in their seats right now. Are you good with that, fives? Didn't think you would answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to pray for you without even knowing who you are, and that's going to be okay. That's going to be okay. But I also want to pray for the rest of you, that you would do what it takes to build a better relationship with them. And then I also want to pray for some of you whose relationship to God is here when it should be also including what's here. Let's pray. God, we are grateful for the fives of the room and in this world. They know things that we could only dream of knowing because it's valuable to them. So God, we're here and we're saying, God, we want a better relationship with those fives, but there's been so many moments where we've been offended. We've been offended by the fact that sometimes it seems as though their heart is hard, that it has a shell around it, and they're not willing to crack that shell and let anybody in. But God, we admit now that we know that that's just a fear that they hold. It's not a truth that they want to believe. So they need us to pray for them. They don't need us to invite them forward. They just need us to pray for them, because if you know a five and they're here, then you know that you can just say those words to yourself and they would appreciate it. So God, we pray for the fives in the room, that they could open up their hearts, that they would reattach their head to that place where their spirit lives and where the soul can connect to the things that they think. That they would trust you with all of their heart and they wouldn't rely on their own understanding. But God, they would also take that knowledge and that trust of their heart and they would transfer that to everybody else around them, because God, they know how to love well. They are loyal, they are committed, they are people who protect. So God, we are grateful for them, but God, help us to know how to build a better relationship with them by helping them believe that they don't have to know it all. You just have to be willing to give all of who they are. God, make us new. In your name we pray. Amen.